The Toronto Maple Leafs have made multiple moves ahead of tonight's game, and one of them is very surprising, and it's in the form of Auston Matthews, who is dealing with an injury. We're going to break down those moves and discuss what it could mean going forward for the Toronto Maple Leafs as they are looking to get a crucial win tonight ahead of what's going to be a very important next couple of weeks for the team with a pretty rough schedule ahead. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. Before we get into it, quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. This is the place to be for daily Leafs content. And a reminder, we will be live after the game tonight, so make sure to tune into that. And thank you guys for your continued support. But Darius, a lot to go over today, most importantly surrounding Auston Matthews and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it's very interesting because coming into tonight's game, again, they lost the last game against the Wild, heartbreaking fashion in overtime. But the big storyline was the Leafs need to win a game. And no matter how you look at it, they're falling down a little bit in the Atlantic standings. But some moves have been made to the lines. And for everybody out there clamoring to get Max Domi on the top line instead of Mitch Marner, he's on the top line. But it is instead of Auston Matthews, who's dealing with an injury, which we'll get into in a minute here. But the Leaf lines are Nyes, Domi, Marner. You have Patches. The second line stays the same. But Darius, Auston Matthews is out today. And again, there's a lot of things to go over here. But he's dealing with an injury right now. And it's a little bit scary because, again, upper body injury, he's day-to-day. But we've seen with Leafs before, day-to-day injuries can turn bad pretty quickly. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Hopefully he's good for the next game and they're being precautious, but not something I thought that I would wake up to today.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that with Domi because that's exactly what I was thinking as soon as I saw this, that, you know what, Domi finally gets his chance on the first line. We've been talking about it on stream and a lot of people have been asking for it, but it's by way of Auston Matthews' injury, which is not the way that you want to see Max Domi come on to the first line. And at center, nonetheless, he's not playing wing. He will be playing at center with Mitch Marner and Matthew Nyes. And what a way to try and get Max Domi going here, at least, right? What an opportunity for him. And he hasn't so far this season. So hopefully he takes full advantage of this opportunity in this game against the Bruins. And a crazy week too, like you mentioned. You don't want to fall down the Atlantic Division standings. What a better way to not do that than playing all Atlantic Division rivals at this point this week and some of next week. So big week here. But yes, Auston Matthews out with an upper body injury. And a lot of people were speculating that, you know, he hasn't been scoring and he hasn't been shooting. And I was kind of chalking it up to the fact that, you know, teams are covering him, obviously, because he scored almost 70 goals last year. But maybe there was something to it. Maybe, you know, we don't know what it is exactly, but it's an upper body injury. Maybe it's his wrists. Again, I'm just speculating. I don't want to put anything out there, but we do know that he had surgery on his wrist before and they've, you know, flared up in the past. So hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it's something just minor that's hurting him, right? That he can return to the lineup later this week and they're just keeping him out precautionary. It's just nagging him. Hopefully it's something like that. Nothing too serious, but yeah, he's out of the lineup. And this changes everything for the Leafs tonight because this is a big game against the Bruins who they want to get back on track as well.
Yeah, division rival. And I've seen some of you guys in the comment section, I've seen it on Twitter say, hey, is Auston Matthews hurt? Maybe he's dealing with an injury he dealt with last season briefly. We don't know now, like whether it's the same injury that he's dealt with in the past, whether it's just, we don't know if this was affecting his shots on goal and just him being able to score, but it's definitely, it's leaning towards that narrative. And again, he's been kind of the talk over the past few games was he hasn't been the same Auston Matthews. Now, that doesn't mean he's been playing bad. He's been doing a lot of different things. He's been playing great defensively, great in the forecheck. He's doing things that we didn't really see him from the past, specifically, obviously, defensively in the forecheck. But you can see this here. Berube having long chats with Domi and Robertson this morning, the meat of the morning skate, adjusting to the absence of Matthews. And as you prepare for tonight's game, you mentioned it, it's a division rival against the Bruins, a very important game. They lost the last game against the Bruins in overtime off of Matthews' turnover, funny enough. But you look at it, and is there anything here? And again, we can take it, we can spin it in a positive front. Now, maybe this gets Max Domi going. Maybe he'll have to be forced to shoot more because he hasn't shot very much this season at all. He's been very, very passive. That top line, though, one thing I do want to note, obviously Matthew Nyes has been absolutely phenomenal. You have Domi and Marner now, which are two of the most passive players in the Toronto Maple Leafs when it comes to shooting the puck. So I'm hoping we actually see some shots on goal from Domi and Marner, or maybe propels one of them to shoot the puck more. And hopefully that's what Berube is speaking with Domi about. And obviously Robertson's factoring in here, telling Robo, you need to shoot the puck more as well. Everybody needs to be extra aggressive tonight. The second line remains the same, but without Matthews, the team is looking, it's a little bit less scary on paper, especially with the lack of aggression we've seen from Domi and Marner thus far.
Yeah, less scary on paper, but we'll get to it in a minute. Their record without Matthews, pretty good. We'll get to it in a second, though. But I think it's exactly that. I think he's telling Max Domi, take advantage of this opportunity. Don't pass off like you normally do. You know, you got to shoot tonight. Get the pucks to the net. Same with Marner, right? Like, just because Marner is notoriously, a pass first guy doesn't mean he shouldn't shoot more, right? Like, he's got to get shooting too. Everybody on that line's got to get shooting. So I think it's more of just don't waste this opportunity here. Robertson's getting back into the lineup as well with Holmberg and McMahon, right? And that line, no real identity so far through the season. All three guys at times have looked pretty good and also pretty rough, right? So just take advantage of this opportunity tonight. You're playing the Boston Bruins, and they're going to play you hard. So, come into this game, give a good effort, try to score, get pucks to the net, stuff like that. And I think that they'll be able to find success. You're only missing one player, and that's Auston Matthews again, but the record without him has been pretty good. And you still have a lot of really good players on this team. And that second line, we haven't mentioned it in the video yet. They've been buzzing recently. So not much of a change. Domi moves up, obviously, to center, and then, or first line center, and obviously Robertson comes into the lineup. So I think it's more of just a don't squander this opportunity type thing.
Yeah, and Stolarz is back in there. Maybe Nylander, and hopefully Nylander can continue his hot start. But again, Stolarz gets the start against the Boston Bruins, coming off of a phenomenal start against the Minnesota Wild. And you briefly alluded to it. The Leafs are 35, 19, and 2 without Matthews in the lineup, according to a couple of number crunchers. Shout out to those number crunchers. That's a very good record. Now, when you crunch the numbers, that is kind of interesting because I think it mentioned like the team is very deep. They're both deep on paper and they're deep in theory. We have a lot of guys. We're talking about how the Leafs had to make some moves because guys are coming in and out. Connor Dewar on the horizon, Yanni Hakanpää, Yarncroc, all these guys. But this is without Kyle Yarncroc. This is without Connor Dewar. And they still have a very serviceable lineup without Auston Matthews. But again, the question is, can they step up to the plate tonight against the Bruins? And you look at the last 8 regular season games versus the Bruins, they haven't won. So they haven't won since, before 2023. So 2022. So really, they haven't won in 2 years. I want to ask you this in the regular season, that is. Of course, they had the playoffs, a few wins there. Not to bring back bad memories, but do you think they adjust tonight? They need to show something. I'm a little bit nervous because without Auston Matthews, it's going to be an interesting game. But I have faith. I think they're going to be able to step up. But that being said, also rest for Auston Matthews might not be the worst thing if he's actually dealing. I think they're going to be very precautious with his injury. It's early in the season, and clearly something was bothering him.
Yeah, and it sounds like, to me, reading that, I think Matthews has been dealing with something for a bit. Just reading that, there's no way that this just flared up out of nowhere out of the last game. It's possible, it's definitely possible, but me reading that, that's what I'm thinking. But knowing the Leafs and their patterns over the last couple of years, or since the start of this era, I totally expect them to win tonight, and I expect them to put in a really good effort because they're missing one of their best players. And at times, I think there's a mentality sometimes when you have really good players on your team. I feel like McDavid deals with it with the Oilers, that sometimes guys look down the bench and be like, who's going to score for us? Well, it's got to be those guys making all that money. And when they're out of the lineup, there's nobody to point the fingers to sometimes. So they're going to have to, a couple of guys are going to have to step up. And we said it against the Winnipeg Jets. They were coming off a horrible week, right? And we were like, this would be the most Leafs thing to do, to beat the undefeated Winnipeg Jets. And they did exactly that. So I expect the Leafs, who are still undefeated since then, they're only lost to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I totally expect them to have a really good effort tonight and to win. And that's just the way it goes. It's weird. Hockey is 50% mental.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Again, we'll be live after the game tonight. One of the most intriguing games so far this season with the Bruins and Auston Matthews out. So let me know if you're worried down below. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.